Yeah, I
Hey,
always.
good. My bad. Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Latte Night, and we have another special guest for tonight. The
Mhm.
Dungeon Master for Roll for DAMEage, the all-fem D&D group on Twitch, Miss Lili Sparx.
Hello,
I'm
hello. Good to be
I,
here.
I'm so sorry. I still don't have a soundboard to make that sound effect of
We
people cheering.
should.
Woo!
Can we make our own sounds? We'll
Yeah.
just
Woo!
woo.
Thank you so much for agreeing to be our guest for tonight. We're happy to have
Yeah, of
you.
course.
Pick your brain, talk nerdy. So, we like to start our guests off with a very simple history with tabletop. So, can you tell
Hmm.
us what your earliest experience with tabletop is? Your first game? How did it feel? How did it change you, if it did?
Yeah, for sure. So, I actually the very, very first tabletop game I played was actually in high school. I was in grade 12, so I was around like 16. And I played like one game of D&D 3.5 with my friends, and I loved it so much. But my friends were jerks, and they didn't want to play again after that night because they were all too chaotic. And the DM was like, "I'm not doing this again." So I didn't actually get to play again until like 2 years ago when I moved to like a much more populated city, which is Toronto in Canada. And then I was actually going through therapy, and my therapist was like, "Hey, you don't really have any friends, right? You should try like getting a hobby. And, like, what are things you're interested in?" And I was like, "Well, I really like fantasy novels." And he's like, "Have you ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons?" And I was like, "I have, and I liked it a lot." So that's when I started looking into it. And yeah, that's when I started really playing. Like, I think that first week when I discovered that there were D&D games in the city, I played like 5 games that week. And then the next week I played like 6 because there were so many games going on in Toronto, and I just fell in love with it so hard. So yeah, and then I discovered online games, and then I was playing like 8 games a week, and it was getting a lot. But yeah, it's been a good time.
I got caught off guard when you said your therapist just said, "Hey, you don't have any friends." Oh,
Yeah, I mean, it probably wasn't an exact quote, but
that's
something along those lines.
8 games a week sounds so familiar because with my group, our home games aside from our stream, we play literally every day, every night. D&D, Vampire the
Nice.
Masquerade, Call of Cthulhu.
Oh, that's
There's a
so
whole
cool.
bunch. Um,
Are y'all playing online now, or are you still able to
we've
get together?
we've always played online.
Oh,
Um,
cool. That's awesome.
so I want to ask is how or when did you start Roll for DAMEage, and how did this? How was it born? Like, when was the idea conceptualized? How did it come to be?
Yeah, for sure. So, as I mentioned, I was playing a lot of games with the Toronto D&D crowd, and coincidentally, there was actually a group called Toronto D&D. So, through that group, which is where I did most of my games with, I met my good friend Jessica Langer. She was also part of the group, and I think we were trying to brainstorm a name for the ladies' night for the Toronto D&D group because we didn't want to just call it like ladies night because we wanted it to be like trans inclusive or like non-binary, and just all of the femmes. But then we just like couldn't pick a name, and then I was like, "Hey, what about Roll for DAMEage?" And then we kind of just like worked from there. So that was the name of our ladies night. And then we were like, "Hey, this is a great name. We should probably just like make a Twitch stream out of it." So that would have been, I guess, that was, oh my gosh, that was only last year. I've only been playing D&D since like November of 2018. So it's been like just under 2 years for me. So yeah, and then yeah, just last year we started Roll for DAMEage in May, and we ran until November, and then we took like a long break because of the world just kind of blew up and we all moved apart, whereas before we were all living in Toronto. But now we're actually going to be starting up again next week, playing Masks, the TTRPG about superheroes.
Yep. Oh man, that's.
Have you played that one before?
I have, but I've never run that game before. It's a lot of
I
fun, actually.
love that game.
I would love to watch
it's my favorite. Yeah, well, next Thursday, if you want to come by, we're doing our character creation, so it'll be fun.
Nice. My question to you is: you said that you've been playing more, recurringly for for the last 2 years. How did you come up? How did you find being a dungeon master when you did for the first time? How was the experience for you?
Oh my gosh. Okay, is this stream like PG-13?
It's R whatever you need it to be.
Okay, cool. So, I knew right away that I wanted to DM, right? Because the very first DM that I had, like, he was fine, but he was very dry. He would just read the book, like literally just read the book and be like, okay, there's a guy standing there, and then it was all combat, combat, combat. But I was a writer and I was like a storyteller, so I really wanted to get into DMing. So my first game that I played was with a bunch of my friends, and being that they were my friends, they were all super high, and like we were all just like smoking weed the whole night and really stoned. And honestly, I was smoking so much weed because I was so nervous about DMing for the time, and so it was just like chaos, but like the best kind of chaos where I was like, guys, I have no idea what I'm doing. And they were like, yo, it's cool. We don't know what we're doing either. Because none of them had played D&D before. I just forced them to play with me so that I could play this game. And then, yeah, we ran through like Lost Mines of Phandelver, but it just ended up being module. Like, yeah, it just ended up being something completely different. And it was a great time. It was a good first experience. Very chill. Very chill.
Better be with all the pot.
Yeah.
My follow-up question is that how do you handle new players?
Oh yeah, so it's awesome. Like I love playing with new players because when I was with Toronto D&D, I was running newbie nights like every month because I love introducing new people to D&D, especially introducing. Sorry, what was that?
No, I'm just saying there are something like that there. Really nice.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. If you're in the Toronto area, look up Toronto D&D because they're an amazing group. But yeah, so new players, what I always like to do is, give them something really basic. Like I never start a novice player as a spellcaster. I mean, of course, if they really, really want to do it, then I'll accommodate them as best I can. But I always recommend that they start with, a fighter, a barbarian, a rogue, a low level of one of those. Because then you just have like one thing that you do and then like one special thing you do. Exactly. You do a little stabby, you do a little rage, you stab again. It's easy. Especially for people who have played like video games before, it's an easy mechanic to figure out because like I attack and then I have my special attack. Cool. Whereas when you go into spellcasters, you then have to understand like A, spellcasting mechanics, B, what all the spells do. Yeah, for sure. And it can be a lot for a new person. And when someone is brand new to D&D, the last thing you want to do is overwhelm them, because if they're overwhelmed and this is their first time, they're probably not going to want to play again. Like it's not fun to just be like, I don't understand anything that's happening. Like just give them one simple thing to do a lot of role play, make it really silly, and yeah, that's my favorite way to handle new players because you just want to give them the training wheels.
Alternatively, if you want to give them a big problem, you throw them into the cleric class and then make them prepare their spells every day. Read through everything you've got because you've got everything there.
Yeah.
Make them suffer.
Yeah. Yep. And multi-class it. My first game, I jumped in, I was level 15 because they were already like most of the way through the campaign. So like I had so many things that I could do and none of them made sense. And like my character just did not fit together whatsoever. But because all my friends were there, it was a good time and I stuck with it. But if I had been, not committed to sticking with it, if my therapist hadn't told me that this was the only way I would get adult friendship, I probably would have given up.
What class though? I'm curious. What level 15 of what?
Oh, I was a druid. I was an elf druid named Ophakia.
Cool name.
Most of what I did was betray my friends. Yeah.
Cool name, cool move, and that's a lot of spells. That's a lot of spells.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it was a good time. Did not know what any of them meant. So, the DM would just kind of do one of these every time my turn came around in combat. And I was like, okay, so, this thing, what does this mean? What is armor class? What is range?
Yeah.
How far away are we? What's happening? Very confusing.
Casting
And then all my friends.
Party.
Yeah. Exactly. And then all my friends would be mean to me because I was taking so long, and that's why I would betray them in the game. So it was just a vicious cycle.
My favorite class to start new players with, if they really want to go spellcaster, is wizard, because you have some degree of control. Wizard, bard, warlock, sorcerer, the arcane casters, because you get to choose and they get to learn these things. But you throw a cleric at them and they just lose everything. It's like so many things to read.
Yeah. I have played a cleric. I still have not played a paladin. I have not paladined up. No, I did play a warlock for the first time last week. But yeah, paladin, gunslinger. Those are the ones I haven't played yet. Blood hunter, haven't played a blood hunter.
Oh, very nice. Masochistic and a little bit, they kind of remind you of that emo phase that everyone has in high school because you have to keep cutting yourself open.
Yeah, just in the least, like, you whenever you do it, you always try and do it in a really cool way and not in a really sad way. You're like, I have a ring that like flicks out and I like stab my thumb a little bit, So it's an interesting class, but yeah. I love charisma-based classes. I love playing sorcerers. I love playing bards. I love playing sassy druids. I love playing sassy any kind of character.
That's a funny thing, actually, because when you're, for example, a warlock, a hexblade, and you use your charisma instead of your strength for whatever the sword is. Me and my friends before I met TJ, before I introduced him to tabletop, I played with a different group. We used to call it feels damage. Because how else are you going to hurt someone with your charisma?
Yeah. I mean, emotional pain is one of the strongest pains that humans can feel, And
then couple that with his long, sharp blade, and we're good.
Yeah. It's like you're hurting my feelings, and my feelings are hurting because you're slicing open my rib cage.
You're saying something that will really hurt them mentally while you're stabbing them.
Yeah, exactly.
I wanted to ask because here's my train of thought is that I was a fan of Top 10 Nerd, which Amanda McKnight was on, and then I learned that Amanda McKnight is part of the stream, and then I watched the stream and I kind of looked up. Wow, these guys are really cool. I kind of keep watching this. Looked up. And then the first person I looked up, of course, the DM, because I really love how you do it. You're kind of there proving that you don't need the Critical Role budget or anything. You just need creativity, and it becomes fun. It can become fun without all the bells and whistles. But look you up, and then I was kind of looking through your following Roll for DAMEage for a while, and then I noticed that I think it was in August, and tell me if you're not comfortable sharing this, but I think you put out in August in what I've never heard of the site before until I saw your post. It's like Twit Longer.
Yes.
Your struggles with mental health and how tabletops have helped you, D&D. I wanted specifically to ask you about that because I personally go through. I was diagnosed with depression for 14 years now, and D&D kind of helped me through it. I wanted to know your experience. How did it help you? I mean, I know you posted about it, but if you could give me like a more personal account of that, how you went through it.
Of course, yeah. I'm always happy to share this story because I just hope that it's going to help other people someday. I spent so much money on therapy because I was lucky enough to have that. So I always try and share what I've learned because it might help someone else someday. I struggled with, all kinds of mental health, just ickiness throughout my whole life. Depression, suicide. When I was in high school, I was diagnosed improperly as bipolar, but then was properly diagnosed a few years later as borderline personality. And tabletop really helped me through it. Not that I was I started my recovery, I would say, when I was like 25. So that was about 4 years ago. So I was about 2 years in when I started playing tabletop games, but it did really, really help me out in a lot of ways because not a lot of people know about borderline personality disorder. It's a very insidious mental health affliction that makes it really difficult to trust people. There's a lot of like cognitive dissonance about whether people are friends or enemies, or if your loved ones are going to leave you. A lot of abandonment issues tied in there and stuff. So one of the main things actually that D&D helped me with is I had to make friends. Like, this wasn't a game, like it was a game that I could play by myself, but like I had to actively let people into my life and like commit to staying in a thing with them. And that in itself was like a huge thing for my BPD, because like I was always very like closed off and, you know, very social, but like nobody really got close to me. So then when I started playing D&D, I started having like friends, like just like my therapist predicted I would. I had friends that suddenly I had to, you know, my brain would be like, oh my God, they hate me, they're gonna leave me, like everyone is gonna disappear from my life. But then I had to be like, no, they cannot, because we have to slay that dragon next week, so they're not going anywhere. And then as I started like DMing and getting more in the community and streaming and that really helped me with my communication skills, because now I had to let all of these, you know, internet strangers kind of into my life. And so I had to learn about like putting up boundaries. I had to learn about like trusting other people to be there, even if I can't see their face. And like, you know, really getting to know myself and getting in touch with the fact that there's just so many nuances to life and there's so much struggle, and yet here we are. And if we just band together and we just keep having laughter and fun and games in our life, like it makes things just a little bit better. And, you know, it's been 2 years now and I have friends. I trust them and I like actively check in on my friends. I always want to keep them in the loop, especially with everything that's going on this year. So yeah, it was a really interesting like progression for me to go from not really having any hobbies and not really like having any friends that were close to suddenly having like a whole network of people that I like trust and let in and love and all that good stuff.
And fans
And
that watch
fans.
your
Yes.
stream.
Yes.
Fan.
Hi.
Hi.
It's
Hi. I consider all of my fans friends too, you know? It's like you're all here
Thank
with
you.
me watching the things that I do, and I always want to give back as much as I can. Like if people are going to respect me, I want to give that respect right back, because we're all just in it together in this weird adventure of life.
I just wanted, you're absolutely right, and I just wanted to say that thank you for sharing your story. I really appreciate, and for me, D&D kind of saved me, and it was, as cliche as it sounds, it was Critical Role, because I was a fan of D&D when I was a kid, but I started in D&D 2nd edition, and I'm happy you started in 3.5. You never have to understand the word FACO, which is a very long mathematical formula just to see if you hit someone or not. But it was sort of like bad thoughts, suicidal thoughts came in, and then Critical Role is like, oh, cool story. It's like, oh, that's it? No, I have to see what happens next. And then I just kept delaying those thoughts until you keep watching it. And eventually, in some volunteer work that I did, I spoke to this little girl. She was only 9, but she was already having these bad thoughts. So I just decided, hey, you want to play an adventure with me? And then I introduced her in Dungeons and Dragons. I dumbed down the rules, of course, for a 9-year-old. I made it super simple.
Yeah.
I gave her a high-level fighter, and I made her go through the 9 hells and killing demons. And it was hard, and she almost died, but she did it. And then I just kind of told her, you see, it's not that hard. Well, it's hard, but you can kill your demons. Same way. And then I was always so happy to see how it helped her. And I always love hearing people's stories of how it helps them, how all of this helps them. The lovely thing what most people assume is just some random game has such a good impact. And thank you for putting your story out there, for sharing it. I mean, if nothing else, it's helped me when I read your post, because it made me feel more validated, it made me feel better. It's probably going to help someone down the line. I'd probably link someone to it if they're feeling that bad too. Thank
you. I mean, honestly, like it's interesting that all of this just came together in this order of things that you said things. And sorry, my words are not working, but it's just an interesting coincidence because when I did that post, it was because I was working with this charity, Jasper's Game Day, which is started by, maybe someone that you should reach out to have on the show because she's incredible. She's, was a teen girl who lost her best friend to suicide. They used to play D&D together all the time. She was 15 when it happened. And then she just started this charity, Jasper's Game Day, because she just wanted to help others, suicide awareness and prevention. And so when I did my post, it was because I had been working with that charity. But during that charity stream, I played with Satine Phoenix, who is also, Filipino and has dealt with mental health issues and struggles and stuff. And in that game, it ended with us fighting demons because you can fight these demons, and tabletop games like this do help bring that to light. And a lot of what you just said about Critical Role helping you, how it was like the next episode just kept you going. She said the exact same thing off stream, like literally the exact same thing. She said it's the shows like Critical Role that people keep watching, and they need the next episode and the next episode and the next episode, and it just helps delay those thoughts. And it's just wild to me that like this all just came full circle and you just said the exact same thing. And I'm just so pleased that, you're here, I'm here, we're having this conversation. Jay is here too. Hi, Jay. We're all together and it's great. And
that's actually TJ.
Yeah.
Jay is not. Jay is a little
Jay is not.
Our third host.
Yeah, our third host is Jay. I'm TJ. It's really confusing. But the thing is, I also want to share that when this pandemic started, that's when we started playing. I mean, they play 7 days a week. I mean, I want to have a rest day, so I play with them 6 days a week.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's fair.
And now I have 2 virtual siblings that knows 95% of everything about 95% more than other people. One thing I would like to ask to you is that how can you separate your personality from the player character that you have, that you play with?
That's an interesting question, I guess, because, well, if I think about a lot of the player characters that I have, so one thing for me is that performance for me has always come very naturally. And honestly, I think it might be a side effect of BPD because a lot of my personality was very mercurial. With BPD, there's a lot of shifting identities. Like you create your identities based on what other people think of you. So my personality has honestly changed so much over the years, over the span of like a month before I started my recovery and really like grounding into who I am. I was like all over the place in who I was. So I feel like all of the characters that I play and even a lot of the NPCs that I play are either people that I have been, or they have elements of the person that I was, or they're based on someone who I really wanted to be and like based myself off of. So like Chang, that's my tiefling over here. She's a tiefling sorcerer. She's like super addicted to, it's so dark. I'm sad that it doesn't show up more.
That's the first time I noticed. Those are all your characters at the back.
Oh my god.
Well, these two are Disney princesses,
Oh, yeah.
so I have no claim on them. That's Princess Jasmine and Mulan. This is my fiance's character, Chadley, who was in the campaign with Chang. So they're all together there. We're adding some more art to this wall. Don't pay attention to it. It's not done. But Chang, she was just like so enthusiastic and so curious. And I think a lot of that was based on like myself as a child. Like I just wanted to know everything. I wanted to read every book. I was just like all over the place. And then I have another character, Crises, who's very like chill and composed and sarcastic.
Despite
and
the
like
name.
Definitely a lot. Yeah, Crises. It's actually, it's because he was amnesia or whatever, and it's based on a Greek name, Chy or Chrysses, and it's some demigod or something that also had some kind of identity issue. Anyway, I don't really remember, but yeah. So yeah, I draw a lot of elements from like my own life. I watch so much anime, and like honestly, all of my NPCs are anime characters because they're the fastest thing for me to think of in my head. So yeah, I just draw from like everywhere, and then all of my own personal characters, yeah, I put a little bit of myself in there because it just makes it easier to remember.
I'm actually so happy you said that, because I've often told my players that every NPC and even the cities that I build, because I'm a fan of homebrew. I always make homebrew worlds. I even told them I have this near 1,000-page document of lore spanning from what is essentially the equivalent of my world's Big Bang to the current age, just to write down. But I always tell them that every NPC is an extension of someone I am, someone I used to be, a personality of mine that is over exaggerated, or something that I want to develop. And that was part of my own personal therapy, is that I did not used to be. If you told 14-year-old me that, hey, you're going to be doing a podcast, like, fuck you, no. Absolutely not. I'm like, now I'm here in front of the camera. So it's like, I try to develop my charisma, my ability to speak, my comfort speaking in front of people. So it's really nice for me to hear that someone else, another DM, just knows how that feels to put a part, just a small portion of yourself into this, make it a character, and somehow it helps you in the end playing that NPC, playing that character. Really,
absolutely,
really therapeutic.
Last week, I was working on like a villain for one of my new stream games, and I accidentally ended up writing like a villain that was just my BPD personified. It's a demon of, spoilers for Creature Collectors if you're watching Creature Collectors, but it's a demon of, she's obsessed with destruction and rebirth. So she has like two phases where like in her demon form she's always trying to destroy everything and burn it down and tear it all apart, but then she has this angelic form that appears to people and is like, destruction is good, rebirth is good, just tear it all down, you don't need it and you can begin again, but it's a lie. And that's basically what my BPD is, because BPD is just like, burn it to the ground, destroy it, I can do better, I'm always going to be starting new over again. And yeah, and then it was just really powerful writing that, because I just got it down on paper and I was like, that's me. That's oh yeah, I see what I did there. Yeah.
I just want to share, when Nigel told us that story, that all of the NPCs has something little of him in them. He has a really, really good charlatan that made us believe in everything. And I was afraid of him personally after he showed us the character. I just want to share it now.
Ooh, all right. Good to know about you.
Because I made a tiefling, and then I decided, how do I make this the worst guy ever but still super likable? It's like I made a charlatan. It's like, okay, he the way he works is he has the symbol of every existing god surrounded in his house. Like every single god is there. He has he has every god's cloak, every symbol. He's the most blasphemous guy ever. And when they asked him, he just said, in the afterlife, this god you serve takes your soul. If he doesn't want it, it might go to the wall of the faithless or something. So he just said, so why worship one when you can worship all of them? One of them has to take you. They actually believe him.
Because of the roles.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so creative and cool. That's some really cool character work there.
And just one point where they were walking down the city I made, they found a beggar who was asking for donations to Tyr. So they gave him a platinum piece as a donation. Then he walked away giving them a wink. And then somewhere a few sessions down the line, they realized it was him. It's just him pretending to be a priest of a temple, just asking for donations to make money.
Oh, gosh, I love campaign work like that, where you like plant something and then it comes up back later on again, just out of nowhere. I have not played nearly enough campaigns or run nearly enough campaigns. I run so many one-shots and I play with so many one-shots, but yeah, I'm really excited about campaign work again.
Actually, I want to tangent from what Nigel just said. What is the funniest thing that you did as a DM to a player?
Oh my gosh. so many things. I might have to think. While I think about this, I'm going to attempt to tell a story and think at the same time. But one of the funniest things that I've done as a player that I think is I had a Yuanti who is a chaotic evil character, but none of her friends knew that she was evil. She was just, that kind of low-key evil. And they were confronting a priest about something. And she wanted him to lie or she wanted it to make it seem like he was lying, because I forget exactly the details of it. So she took out a flask of water that she had and threw it on the priest, but at the same time cast poison spray or acid splash? I forget which one it is exactly. It's always like poison spray should be acid splash and acid splash should be poison spray. But either way, she like cast this cantrip at the same time so that it looked like the water was burning him. And she was like, yo, this holy water is burning him, so he is not a legit priest. And I got away with all my sleight of hand and deception checks. And that's probably one of my favorite things I've done in D&D as a player.
Poor priest.
Yeah, he wasn't that great anyways. Oh gosh, as a DM, it's funny because like when I think about as a DM, it's always like the funny shit that players do to me. Like in my premiere episode of Creature Collectors last week, it's a pretty silly stream. It's based on, like Pokemon and Digimon and card captors, and just like a very very ridiculous game. And just my favorite part of the episode is I'm showing them all their rooms, like a pretty standard part of an adventure, I guess. Like you show up at this place, you live here now, here are your rooms. The characters just decided they didn't want doors on their rooms, and they just spent like 10 minutes each of them describing how they tear or remove the door from their room. And it's just like shit like that I love. That's my favorite part of DMing. It's just the weird stuff that players decide to do. It's like, why? Oh, okay. Oh, no. One of my favorite moments as a DM where I mess with a player is in the Roll for DAMEage stream. One of the characters, Zara, who's played my friend Jess, she was just like freaking out about something because like everything was going wrong and there was assassins and blah blah blah, and she's just freaking out. And so the old druid lady is like, here have a magic stick, here have this twig. And she was like, oh, is it a magic twig? Like, what does it do? Does it cast a spell? She's like, no, it's just a comfort twig. It comforts me. You hold it, you feel better. And she was just like, oh okay. Oh. I love trolling my players like that.
Yeah. Reminds me of the wand of smile that Nigel gave us. We don't know what it does.
I gave one of the players in my campaign a custom item. Basically, you roll a d20, 1 to 10, something comes out, 11 to 20, something else comes out. It will either be something incredibly useful for the situation or incredibly useless. But you never know. Great. You never know. You roll the d20. I determine before you roll which of those two halves is what. So you never know what you get. And then they got a wand.
Interesting.
And then they went into a goblin cave. And you know how it's like 1 goblin, 2 goblins, super easy. 20 goblins, then you have a problem because some of them are going to hit.
Goblin Slayer.
Yeah. So they fought 20 goblins, and then they were dying, and they kind of forgot that they had the wand. At the end of that, when they survived, they were asking me, "Crap, I forgot about the wand. Fuck, what does the wand do? Just tell me, because the item disappears at the end of the day. So what does the wand do?
Right.
Oh, it's a wand of smiles."
Hated him in real life. He reminds us that you have a wand when we are actually getting TPK'd by the goblin. Oh, you have a wand. It was actually a wand of smile that I cast.
Because the last time
I would have hated him.
Because the last time they used the item, it was super useful because they were dying and it actually turned you into a dragon for a short amount of time. For 1 minute, it turns you into a dragon.
That's awesome.
So they won that fight by that, and then they fought use it again. It's like I didn't tell them that, hey, you still have that wand, because I figured they were dying. I'm not that cruel. But I was waiting.
But then you get to see them all smile. Everyone's happy. You're smiling now, though.
I want to ask, because one of the things that I really like in D&D games, on top, it's sort of the cherry on top for me with the great storytelling and world building, are the voices. I mean, I fully recognize that that's not important. You know, you don't need it for a good D&D game. But I like doing voices. You know, I like making weird sounds, and I noticed that you like it too a lot.
Yes.
So
Thank
I wanted to ask you, how did you get into making voices? Because not all DMs do that, right? So how did you start doing that?
Yeah. So, well, like I mentioned, the first DM that I ever had when I started playing seriously was, you know, read the book kind of guy. And that was fun. Great guy. You know, fine game. But then I went to a Toronto D&D event and I was DM'd by another DM who did weird voices, loved doing weird voices, loved it. And I was like, whoa, this is a thing you can do? You can make your voice sound stupid for the game? Like, that's amazing. Because I have always done weird voices. Like, you know, I've gone through phases of just talking in a stupid British accent after I discovered Russell Brand. You know, you walk around talking like Russell Brand for a week and everyone's a big prat kind of thing. And so my friends hated me for like a year because I just did that all the time. But now I can do it in a game and it was funny and everyone loved it. So yeah, I just started, you know, like when I would watch TV or something and I would hear a voice that I liked, I would just echo it back and just, you know, I still do it when I'm watching TV. I just would, you know, yes, we are moving in on the campsite right now. And I'll just like mimic them as they're doing it. And I have a little like notes document where I write down voices that I like. And I was just playing with this before we started, but I also now have an app that does something. Hang on. It's gonna happen.
Like a voice
Don't worry
modulator?
about it. Yes.
It was gonna be a surprise.
Oh,
Is it working?
Oh.
Like this?
yes.
Yes, this is a new voice that I'm trying out. And yeah, you know, sounds pretty cool. I like the laugh on it. It's like
You know, it's like a cross between this sort of disgruntled demon and surfer.
Yeah, it's really great. So yeah, it has all kinds of stuff on it. So I'm gonna have a ton of fun with that. But you know,
There's nothing like just doing a creepy little tighten up your voice and you're a little meh.
and I don't really like doing accents because I'm not good at doing accents. You know, I always feel like I'm gonna offend somebody somewhere by just doing like the worst accent impression. And so, you know, I just like doing weird voices instead because you can just differentiate characters with like, I sound like this, or now I sound like this, without having to worry about like rolling my R's. I can't roll my R's, you know. Frenette.
I'm terrible at accents, but I try it anyway because it's funny. I go with it. You know, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm just trying to do it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think it's different, you know, because most of my DMing I do publicly. And so when I'm on the internet, you can always offend someone on the internet. So I try to offend as few people as possible or just the people I want to offend. So yeah, but in my home games and personal games, I'll just do any weird voice that comes to mind, you know. Whatever happens.
DJ?
Yeah, I would like to ask about how do you, as a DM, how do you handle character deaths? And how do you write for their deaths? Or how do you improv when they die, type of thing?
Yeah. So here's something to admit is I like almost never kill characters. I'm bad at combat. I mean, I don't know if bad is the word to use, but I am not confident in combat, you know, especially as a DM because I love characters. I hate killing characters. I'll always give them like a way out or something. And I try to make it really tough. But then when I see them getting down in their hit points, I'm like, oh God, the creature runs away. Something intervenes. I don't know. But I have killed a couple characters in one shots. One of them, the most memorable that comes to mind is I was at a convention and it was a guy who's signed up to play in one of my games, and it was his first time ever playing D&D. And by the end of the game, he wanted to do like a grand heroic, you know, rush in and charge all the goblins by himself thing. Yeah, exactly. Just woo, hero time. And yeah, I super killed him by like, extra 50 hit points or something because he was just so dumb. And I was like apologizing for so long. I was like, I'm so sorry. It's your first D&D game and you died and your head got torn off and then your arm got, put in your butt or whatever it was. And he was like, yeah, no, it's cool. That's the way I wanted to go. This is great. And I was like, okay, I'm so sorry. But I love killing NPCs. Killing beloved NPCs is my favorite. And so, you always write that in and just keep it in your back pocket until the moment comes.
Until they're in love with him.
Don't feel justified of killing NPCs that were close to us.
Someone's got to die. At least it's not you. It's just this imaginary friend that you made.
We're invested in the relationships on those.
Just because I'm about to ask you like what other tabletops have you played, or if none, then what would you like to play? But my first, I want to make a present to that. Before that, I would like to tell you, if you're afraid of killing players, if you've ever heard of Call of Cthulhu, maybe stay away.
I've played Call of Cthulhu, but I've never died in it.
Yeah,
I've not died. I actually always make it through pretty okay. Yeah. I love Call of Cthulhu though. But yeah, I love, D&D is great and it's still, my heart game, my easy go-to game. But gosh, Masks is my favorite TTRPG of. There are so many good moments in Masks. There's so much fun. I love Masks because the system itself is built to give you a perfect blend of comedy and drama. Yes. Because you're teenagers. So when you're teenagers, everything is funny or horrible. And, it's just such a beautifully written system that allows for so much creativity. And, being in generally the modern world, it also makes it easier for me because I'm like, every single Masks game I play is in Toronto. That's it. It's Toronto. You can look it up on Google Maps. We're going to be at, the Eaton Center today. So Google it and you have pictures of it. So I played Masks, love Masks. All of the Magpie games line up really. So Masks, Bluebeard's Bride, Epilion. If you're ever interested in playing any of these, you can go to magpiegames.com and I run games every month and you can sign up and play these games with me and I'll teach you how to play them. But Bluebeard's Bride is like a horror-based game about women's issues. And then Epilion is really fun. It's about being baby dragons, like teen dragons in a dragon world. So that one's really fun. I also play in a weekly Cypher game every Friday. That's a sci-fi game, and it's really cool. That's my favorite stream that I play in. So, if you want something to check out, Aether's Walkway on Fridays is so excellent. And then I've also played Call of Cthulhu. I've also played, random one-off fun things like Honey Heist. I played some of the Lady Blackbird system. Lots of stuff. In
2 years. That's actually a lot to do in 2 years.
Yeah, well, that's what happens when you quit your full-time job to play tabletop games.
Oh, I wish I could do that.
Oh, yeah.
Instead,
it's a struggle.
Instead, I do it while I'm on the clock.
Struggle.
If anyone from work is watching, I'm sorry.
Too.
It's recorded.
If anyone's watching, I'm sorry.
We're in the same company. Come on.
It's a secret.
I want to ask something here. In terms of...
Are you on the clock right now? I won't tell anyone. Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm also on the internet and now everyone knows. I wanted to ask, when running D&D and writing your stories, and you're also homebrew, I really love, how do you where do you draw the homebrew from? Like, everyone's always got some inspiration to them in their world, in their characters. Well, you already explained your characters, but where do you draw your lore from, your homebrew, your adventure? Where do you get the inspiration for it?
Gosh, really everywhere. I do a lot of reading, so I've always been a big reader. I read a lot of fantasy novels. I've started reading sci-fi. I've always excuse me, I've always read manga, I've always watched anime, so those are 4 very strong places to draw inspiration from into doing things. I also love sometimes there will be like a mechanic playing in a lot of games with a lot of different DMs makes you a better DM. That's just one of my strongest opinions, because you get to glean so much from other people's styles. Not that you're completely ripping off their adventures and stuff, but there's a puzzle that was in a game that you're like, oh, I could use something like this in this, and that kind of stuff. Roll for DAMEage, for example, that Avarian setting was based on 2 different novel series. One of them was the Axis trilogy by Sarah Douglas, and the other one was a big part inspired by kind of honestly the Expanse sci-fi series.
Nice.
There was a lot of things that I pulled from to create the Avarian, and of course like the classic Forgotten Realm setting and stuff. So, and then like I mentioned, my current stream that I'm running, Creature Collectors, that one's a lot of stuff from Pokemon, a lot of stuff from Digimon, card captors in there, a bit of Ghostbusters feel, and then random inspirations from all kinds of different animes and stuff. And honestly, some of the inspiration for the world lore was because I was using Incarnate, incarnate.com, which is like a map maker, and they just had these really cool stickers that looked really pretty, so I just put it on my map. It was like, there, that's gonna be there because I say so, and that's gonna be lore now because it's pretty. So it's just whatever. And I'm also a very improvisational DM. Like for the most part, for campaigns and stuff, I do a bit more planning. But, if I'm running a one-shot, whatever, it's mostly off the top of my head. I'm just like, yeah, whatever. We're just going to romp around for 4 hours, whatever you want to do.
Based on your story, you seem like a really, really cool DM. But I would like to ask, can you tell us a story of a bad player that you had?
Yeah.
And how you handled it?
Let's see. I mean...
Have you ever had?
Have you ever had?
There, most when you're working with playing publicly, like when I was doing Toronto D&D stuff, there weren't really like bad players. Like you do hear stories of problem players sometimes, and I have heard other DMs have problem players, but I will say running for children is difficult. Not that they're bad players, but they are chaotic beings of not fully developed brains yet. So, and it's really fun playing with like teenagers because, all of my insecurity brain just kicks in like, are you having fun? Do you like me? Am I forcing you to play D&D right now? Like, I'm sorry. Like, are you having fun though? Like, do you like this weird voice? Are you laughing? Why aren't you laughing? So there's stuff like that, but yeah, I've been pretty lucky, I think. And I think I also have the kind of personality, or I hope I have the kind of personality where people just know that I'm not going to put up with stuff. Like, I'm not going to sit here and take it if you're going to be a jerk, like, just get out. I don't got time for that.
Yeah, no, well, your personality right now just seems kind of chill and happy, so that's nice. My question is, with all the things that you DM'd for, all the things that you've done, I wanted to ask, is there any moment, because if there was, for example, in Roll for DAMEage, I didn't see it, but was there any moment when your players, you said you liked it when they messed around with you, was there a moment when they just kind of made you go in your brain, oh fuck, like, what do I do? Was there ever any moment, whether on Roll for DAMEage or any game you've run, where you just went, shit, what now?
Not really. Not where I had like a negative response. Like I was, oh no, my game is broken, because my game is never broken because my game doesn't exist. So, I always just kind of like flow with whatever's happening. It might take me a second to like process it. My favorite moment in Roll for DAMEage where they kind of stumped me was just, again, it was Jess, because Jess's brain is just great. They were like getting, hit pretty hard in a battle, and there was this vine wall that was next to them, right? And Jess was down there by herself, the squishy wizard, while all of her friends were up this 90-foot cliff fighting at the top of it, and all of these things were closing in around her. And she was like, I want to cast Disguise Self, and I want to disguise myself as the vines and like just blend into the wall here. And there's actually like clips of it on the internet where I literally just go, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, for sure, let's do that. So I just made her roll, like I think it was like a deception check and then like maybe a stealth check or something. And then yeah, she just Homer Simpson disappeared into the wall.
Yeah, like,
yeah, exactly. Just back up slowly. Nobody notices.
I love that story because I remember one time a few years ago when I was a player, I had a warlock and I was level 2.
Mm-hmm.
I had Mask of Many Faces, so Disguise Self.
Nice.
We went into a mine where apparently there was this troll that was also a paladin and a bunch of dwarves that were kind of working on something, and we had to steal from them. One of our players fell down while climbing down this 100-foot drop. He fell down, and surprisingly, me with 9 strength managed to stay on guard. Like he fell down, and he's injured, and they're all surrounding him, going to kill him. No one's listening to him. He has poor charisma. No one listened to him. I was like, shit. What do I do? What do I do? I disguise myself. Okay, what do you disguise yourself as? Mind Flayer. It's like Mind Flayer. It's like walk down and said, I just told him, that is my prey you are eating. Step away. I was just trying to intimidate them. There was me,
nice.
this chaotic neutral warlock, and then there was a whole like 8 dwarves and a troll with a magic hammer, like trying to intimidate them. And I said,
nice.
I put on Eldritch Blast, but don't shoot it. I just have it in my hands to make the effect of me there, and it actually worked.
I love that you were level 2. So baby.
It's like, what's the scariest thing I can think of? My mind Flayer.
That is pretty terrifying. Nice charisma check. Nice charisma check.
That was good dice. It was 20.
Mm-hmm.
I want to ask you now the opposite question. Have you ever made a DM go, oh shit? Like, have you ever stumped your DM before? With an epic move or something? Or something he wasn't seeing?
I mean, throwing that holy water was one of them. But I usually just do weird things that the DM doesn't expect. Like in one of my first episodes with Chang, my tiefling sorceress, as I mentioned, she's obsessed with knowledge, right? Like she's wild for it. She has to have it. So on the first episode, we're on a boat, we're going somewhere, and then, another boat shows up in the distance. They start firing at us. The battle starts, and then, a bunch of rounds of battle, like range spells and attacks going back and forth. And then the DM's like, okay, what do you want to do? And I was like, Chang, like, straight up jumps in the water and starts swimming over there because she wants to know who they are. Stuff like that, or like, one of my favorite things to do to DMs, because it always just blows their minds, is like instead of attacking something in combat, I'll just do something really weird. Like if my character doesn't feel like attacking, or if they are distracted by something else, it's like Chang goes over there and she like starts reading a book because she doesn't notice what's happening or like whatever. And the DM's always like, "Are you sure? Are you sure that's what you want to do with your action?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm sure." Because I'm not afraid of death. I'm not afraid of death. I want my characters to be real, and I want them to be funny. So I will do whatever it takes to make them funny, including sacrificing them.
I always remember when I was a player, is like the biggest warning a DM can give you is when he asks, "Are you sure?" Like
Yeah.
Those 3 words.
I'm sure. I'm so sure.
Are you sure? I mean, on our game, the biggest warning we get is you can try.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
You can
You can always try.
You can try anything.
I mean, the good thing now is we can see his face when he's saying it.
He does look kind of ominous over there in the darkness. I feel like you need a hood,
This is
like a deep hood.
I actually wear a hood for our Call of Cthulhu stream, but yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Um,
Yay.
I wanted to ask something else. This is a little
Yeah.
bit funny, but do you also have a dice collection? And if so, how big is it?
Yes. I have a massive dice collection. I have around 300 sets of dice, I think.
Oh.
That are now spread out between two countries because I split my time between Canada and the US. So here I don't have that many dice. Here I probably have around 50 to 100 sets somewhere, but in Canada I have like my whole collection, which is around, an extra 200 sets.
Which is nice. I mean, the reason that we ask this is because so that we feel good about our own. Because the people that we ask has a lot more dice than ours.
Yeah.
Just
And-
dice goblin. And we
Hey,
feel good
however
now.
many dice you have, that's how many you need. Okay, that is my philosophy. If you have one set, if you have 5 sets, if you have 5,000, you do you, boo. But
My-
if you're insanely in debt like me, then maybe stop buying dice like me.
My favorite meme is that story of a guy who was describing a player that just sat down very calmly with his one set of dice, his pen, and his
Yes.
character sheet. And then he just described this. Everyone looked at him and says, "Who is this psychopath?"
Yes.
One set
Classic
of dice.
tweet by D&Deej. Shout out D&Deej on Twitter. Yeah, good tweet. Good tweet. That made me laugh a lot.
Here's something I wanted to know about you personally. Is that
Yeah.
with Dungeons and Dragons, you just said you get to meet a lot of people, you get to make a lot of friends. What, aside from the social aspect of it, like, meeting all these people, making all these friends, and having this much fun with them, what is the best part of it for you? Setting aside, obviously the people are the biggest fun of the game, right? The people you play with. But when you set that aside, what is the part of the game that you love the most?
Oh, that's such a hard question. Probably being a performer. I love acting. I love being in characters, whether I'm DMing or I'm being a player character. I love to act. So just, getting a chance to do a voice, have a personality. Sometimes I get to do really cool acting things like crying. Sometimes I cry on stream and make it emotional and stuff. And, it's that part. And then the performing, and then I know you said take out the other people, but I live off of other people, so and then seeing them in chat or the other players in the game or something reacting to my acting and seeing that my performance is affecting them, that's the best feeling in the world. I love killing an NPC and seeing all the player characters feel it in their eyes and their souls.
Thank you.
No.
Thank you.
One of my most validating moments of all time was at a Toronto D&D game. My character, this is a campaign that I'd been playing in for 4 months. My character, her brother was turned into a vampire, and then her friend, they were fighting the vampire and she was trying to stop all of her friends from killing him. One of her friends cast, hold person on her, so she was paralyzed. She couldn't move, while her other friend decapitated her brother in front of her, right in front of her, and she couldn't move. Oh my God. And I just burst into tears. And we were playing in a small cafe or whatever. So there's 4 other groups around us. And people just kept looking over and being like, oh my God, is Lily okay? What's happening? Because I was just sitting there and I wasn't moving either because I was paralyzed. I was just letting the tears stream down my face while all of my friends looked at me guiltily. And I was like, you did this. That's the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes,
The
that's the
best.
good stuff.
People like to say that we feed off of the tears of the players as DMs.
I feed off of everyone's tears.
Yeah, I just closed the video. By the way, I just closed the video when that happened.
That's fair. I mean, I like laughs too. I like making people cry, and I like making people laugh. I don't know what kind of person that makes me, but that's the kind of person I am.
Then give them one that smiles.
Yes, exactly.
I just really love that. I came up with that homebrew item because I thought, wouldn't it be cool if you had to make a gamble? Like you have an item, it's immune to divination, it's immune to detection, you don't know what it does. And then in a dire situation you pull it out and oops, it's useless.
It's not useless. It brings smiles, and smiles can save the world.
You're expecting to revive someone and you just make them smile.
You think it's a rod of resurrection, but no, it's a wand of smiles, and the corpse smiles at you.
Okay, so I have to just share a story from my childhood. When I was a kid, at McDonald's, one of the dessert menu items said free smiles. And so I, being a kid, thought that was like the name of a cookie or a cake or something. And I was like, hey, can I have a free smile? And then I guess the dude smiled at me. I don't remember. All I remember is getting my tray and being like, where's my smile at? This is all of the normal shit that I ordered. Where's my free smile? And that's just what that made me think of.
Lies. Yeah. All lies.
It was lies.
My life is a lie. Wait, we're just a little bit over, but I wanted to ask you something real quick.
Yeah.
Are you a fan of, weird question, but are you a fan of reading like RPG horror stories, on Reddit? It's like just, you ever feel I think
a little,
the German
I don't
word
actively look for them.
Yeah,
Schadenfreude.
Yes, you ever feel that where it's like, because we've had bad players before, and we've had to deal with them. Like we've had cheating players, we had players who fudged their rolls, just all of that. So to make myself feel better, is I look through RPG horror stories on Reddit, and it's like, my life is not that bad. Okay, because there are stories of couples breaking up because the DM was hitting on the wife. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah. Honestly, I can't. I think it's because I'm a woman. And so, like, a lot of the RPG horror stories, like, I don't actively look for them because they just make me sad. I'm too empathetic for that. But I do see them. And honestly, doing Roll for DAMEage, like a lot of the ladies' games and the stuff that I do for women in the community, like the horror stories you hear are just so sad, like DMs, like sexually assaulting players without their consent. It's like, why would anyone do this? Why?
I actually have
nasty.
I actually have a story for you relating to that I think you might like, because it was it's on a YouTube channel called Crit Crab, who reads these horror stories, and he does a really good job of it. He was reading a story about this DM who was allowing this player to kind of harass the female player's PC, and then they were kind of it was bordering sexual harassment, right? And it was him already taking his pants off, and then the female player's friend was asking, do I see this? It's like, roll perception. He's like, okay. He does see it. So he goes up. And then the DM previously said, it's up to the players and the dice. I'm not doing anything. It's like, he's not defending her, right? He's just allowing this guy to harass this girl. So the girl's friend comes over, this huge muscular orc. And then he just claims that, why are you hitting on her? I thought we had a thing. Like, the guy said, no, I'm not gay. But what about all those people you killed for me? Dude, I'm not gay, we were part. And then the guy just said that he twisted all of this dude's words into something that would be sexually taken for orc culture. And then how the guy described his action of taking his pants off and about to harass the girl is what the orc did to the guy. And then the DM said, okay, we can stop there, we fade to black. I said, I thought it was up to the players and the dice. I want to describe this, I want to role play. And then he proceeded to harass this guy in front of the tavern.
Damn.
That was, I don't know, I just liked the revenge story. That made me feel good. Of all the sexual harassment stories online, that was a perfect way of doing it. That was a perfect way of handling it, defending a player.
I guess so. But, I mean, that just sounds like a shitty game to be in. Like, I would be so uncomfortable being at that table. Like, And I just want to put this out there for anyone who's listening or watching, like, you do not have to be in the games that you do not want to be in.
Absolutely. No reason
That
to
is
stay there.
not said enough.
You can be anything. And you
Mhm.
want to be a sexual harasser. You should be
Yeah,
reviewing
that's-
your
You have to
life
be-
choices.
Mm-mm.
You have to be
Yep,
sick.
absolutely.
You have to be really sick to be
Think of
that.
your life choices.
Yeah. And you don't have to be there for that if you don't want to be. You can say, I do not want to be in this game anymore, and you can go find better games because, like, look at us. We are 3 lovely, wonderful people, creative people here, and we just found each other so you can find other people too,
The internet is free. You can just go around, find good people, find friends among your community, just put yourself out there.
Yeah, like there are always new games for people.
Right?
You
Take
actually
it from me,
scared me.
kid.
You scared me.
That was out of nowhere.
Yes. I
I
have
was
so much
alone.
power.
So,
I'm alone in my house.
there's something moving
Yes.
behind this camera. So, to close this off, because I know you have a game, I would just like to ask you to give a message to anyone having a hard time, especially with the current situation of the world. People are just having a hard time coping. If you could give a quick message of inspiration for nerds or other people who just need to hear it.
Totally. My favorite mantra when I'm going through hard times is, this too shall pass. Everything is going to change. Everything always changes. And, good times change into bad times change into good. But at the end of the day, things are just going to be different eventually. I promise. So you might as well stick around and see what the next episode holds.
Yep. So, good night, everyone. Thank you for
Ding.
watching with us. Thank you, Lili,
Thank
for
Thank you for
joining
having
us.
me.
Oh,
This
it
was so
lovely.
fun.
Yeah, thank you, and
Thank
good
you.
night.